The north of Aotearoa breathes differently. Mist clings low to the folds of the land around Kororāreka, rising slowly from damp earth and fern, drifting through kauri trunks that have stood longer than memory. The air smells of wood smoke, salt carried inland from the Bay of Islands, and wet soil turned by bare feet. This is in Ngāpuhi country, and in the early years of the 19th century, it is loud with birdsong, with voices, with the crack of muskets echoing faintly from distant hills. Here, around 1807, a child is born. He is named Heke Pōkai, after his mother's brother. His father, Tupanapana, watches quietly. His mother, Tekona, holds the child close, the warmth of new life against her skin. Around them, women murmur karakia, and the small sounds of a village settling back into itself after birth. This boy enters a world already shaped by change, steel, gunpowder, foreign sails on the horizon. Though he cannot yet know it, Heke grows up in the Kaikohe area, among ridgelines and swamps, in a landscape that teaches endurance early. He learns the rhythms of cultivation and gathering, the weight of a taiaha in the hands, the stories that carry manner and warning in equal measure. He is quick, alert, people notice. As he grows, the north is burning, the musket wars ripple across Iwi, and Ngāpuhi stands at the centre of it. The sound of gunfire is no longer rare. Heke watches older warriors return from expeditions with blood on their clothes and victory in their voices. He listens when the name Hōne Heke is spoken, a figure already moving toward the legend. And then something stranger arrives. In 1824, Heke walks into a missionary school at Kerikeri. The building smells of ink, paper and damp timber. Words appear on slates. New sounds enter his mouth. English prayers, unfamiliar hymns. He sits beneath the gaze of Henry Williams and learns not only letters, but the idea that power can also come from books, from belief, from alignment with something beyond the pair. It is not submission, it is observation. He absorbs everything. Heke moves between worlds with ease. The discipline of the classroom, the strength of the marae. He is baptized in 1835, takes the names Hōne Wiremu, and stands before the mission community with his wife Ono and their children. Water runs over his head, words are spoken, a new identity settles on him, lightly, like a cloak that can be removed if needed. Tragedy follows quickly. Riria and the children die. Grief does not break him, but it hardens something inside. Soon after, he marries Harriata Rongo, daughter of Hōne Heke, binding him more tightly to Ngāpuhi power. Christianity and chiefly lineage now sit side by side within him, unresolved. By the 1830s, Hōne Heke is already a warrior. He fights at Kororāreka in the conflict later called the Girls' War. He joins expeditions south. He bleeds, and others bleed for him. He earns reputation not through noise but through presence, through decisiveness. He can preach, he can fight, he can listen. And somewhere deep in the north, beneath the flags and prayers and promises yet to come, something begins to form. A growing awareness that the land is changing hands without consent, that authority is being quietly shifted, pole by pole, law by law, shaped by musket smoke and scripture alike, unaware that his name will soon be carved into the history of a nation, not as a convert, not as a student, but as a challenger. The wind moves through the trees at Kororāreka, and the story begins to lean forward. The ships come more often now. They slide into the Bay of Islands with practised ease, masts creaking, canvas snapping in the wind. Whalers, traders, naval vessels flying flags that announce ownership before a word is spoken. Kororāreka hums with activity, barrels rolling over planks, sailors shouting, the smell of rum, oil, sweat and salt thick in the air. Money changes hands, so does influence. Hōne Heke watches all of it. By 1840, he is no longer a young warrior learning the world. He is a rangatira, with standing, married into power, respected and listened to. He has learned the missionaries' language, absorbed their religion, stood inside their churches. He understands how the British think, or at least how they explain themselves. So when talk spreads of a treaty, Heke listens closely. The paper arrives with ceremony. Words are translated, then translated again. Promises are spoken aloud, smoothed by reassurance. Protection, partnership, authority shared, not taken. Some say Heke signs on the 6th of February, some say later. The truth is less important than what follows, because almost immediately the ground shifts beneath his feet. The capital moves south away from the north, away from Ngāpuhi. Auckland grows fat, while Kororāreka thins out. Customs duties appear where there were none. Ships stop coming. The bay grows quieter, too quiet. Heke feels it first in numbers, then in silence. Where once 20 ships might sit at anchor, now there are gaps. Empty water where money once floated. Ngāpuhi traders lose income. Chiefs lose influence. The old arrangements, the informal levies, the understandings between rangatira and captains are declared illegal by men newly arrived, backed by soldiers. Authority, Heke realises, is being redefined. The flagstaff rises above Kororāreka, tall and unmistakable. The Union Jack catches the wind on Mikey Hill, visible from the harbour, from the town, from the sea. It stands not just as a symbol of law, but of hierarchy, of whose word matters. Heke stares at it. Others grumble. Pomari II bristles. Titora fumes. American traders whisper comparisons. Stories of colonies that rejected distant rulers, of taxes imposed without consent. The American flag appears more often, bright and defiant. It flutters from ships, from buildings, even from the carved stern of Heke's waka. The missionaries worry, the governor watches, everyone senses the tension tightening. Heke does not explode. He calculates. He speaks with William Williams. He listens to Henry Williams. He hears their warnings and weighs them against what he sees daily. Land sales controlled, forests restricted, justice enforced by foreign courts. The execution of Wiremu Kingi Maketu hangs heavy in his mind. Proof that Māori law now bends beneath something else. This is not what was promised. In July 1844, the first axe bites into wood. The flagstaff falls. It crashes to the ground with a crack that echoes across the town. Shock ripples outward. Outrage from the British, excitement and fear from settlers, approval from some Māori, concern from others. Heke is making a statement, not starting a war. Not yet. The pole is raised again. It is cut down again and again. Each time the message sharpens. This is not vandalism. This is argument. This is resistance made visible, audible, undeniable. The axe replaces the pen. The hill becomes a stage. By the fourth time, patience is gone. Troops gather. Guns are cleaned. Orders are written. Heke knows what comes next. He also knows he is no longer alone. Kawiti stands with him. Warriors gather, paths inland fill with movement. The flagstaff rises once more. The air feels different now. Heavier, metallic, edged with inevitability. The north holds its breath. The paper promises have dissolved into suspicion, and the argument has moved beyond words. Hōne Heke sharpens his blade. The sound of axes is about to be replaced by a gunfire. Dawn breaks quietly on the morning of the 11th of March, 1845. A thin light slips over Mikey Hill and down into Kororāreka. The harbour is calm. Smoke rises gently from chimneys. For a moment the town feels suspended between sleep and waking. Then the stillness shatters. Gunfire snaps through the air. Hōne Heke moves fast, breath controlled, heart steady. Around him, warriors surge forward, muskets raised, feet pounding the ground. The guard post is taken almost instantly. Shouting, confusion, the sharp sting of black powder. Men fall before they fully understand what is happening. Above it all, the flagstaff stands, tall and unyielding. Heke reaches it. The axe strikes wood. Once, again. Each blow sends splinters flying. The pole trembles, groans, then crashes down, dragging the Union Jack with it. The sound carries across the bay. Heavy, final. A message delivered without words. At the same time, Taruki Kawiti attacks from another direction. Kororāreka explodes into chaos. Settlers run, soldiers scramble. Cannon fire booms from HMS Hazard, iron tearing through buildings and earth. Smoke thickens, mixing with the smell of burning timber and fear. By midday, the town is breaking apart. Heke gives clear orders. Take what is useful. Leave the churches untouched. And so the Anglican and Catholic buildings stand unharmed while the rest of the town is stripped and emptied. This is not blind destruction. It is controlled defiance. By evening, Kororāreka is abandoned. British troops and settlers retreat to their ships, watching flames crawl through what was once the busiest port in the north. The rebellion has moved beyond symbolism. The war is real now. Heke does not linger. He leads his warriors inland, away from the coast and into the bush toward Lake Omapira. The land closes around them. Dense scrub, wet ground, birds startled into flight. This is familiar country. Every ridge and valley offers cover, memory, advantage. But Ngāpuhi is divided. Tamati Wakanene stands with the crown. Old alliances fracture. Cousins face cousins. The conflict tightens, becoming personal in ways no treaty ever could. These men know each other's voices, each other's strengths. Near the lake, Pa rise. Heke builds Pukatutu, solid, deliberate, defensive. Nina establishes his own nearby. Between them skirmishes erupt, violent encounters followed by tense silence. Muskets crack, men fall. Manner is tested daily. In May, British forces arrive in strength. Red-coated soldiers move awkwardly through bush, never meant for marching. They bring discipline, numbers, and Congreve rockets. Fire streaking across the sky. And then, nothing. The rockets explode harmlessly against the palisades. Māori warriors laugh. Confidence surges. When the British attempt to storm the PA, they are met with confusion and close combat. Ambushes from scrub and gully. Shots fired from unseen angles. Heke fights hard. Kawiti arrives like a storm from the bush. Eventually the British retreat, shaken and blooded. 14 dead, dozens wounded. The PA still stands. But victory costs. Food runs low. Supplies dwindle. Heke leaves to gather provisions, moving through known paths. While he is gone, disaster strikes. Te Ahuahu falls to Nini's warriors, a crushing blow to Heke's prestige. Heke returns and attacks immediately. The battle is fierce, desperate. Bullets tear through bodies. Chiefs fall. Heke himself is badly wounded, forced to withdraw. For the first time, he is decisively beaten. Not by the British, but by his own people. Smoke clears. The war pauses, unsettled and unresolved. And as Hōne Heke lies recovering from his wounds, the shape of the conflict begins to change, drifting toward its final dangerous act. The bush grows quieter as the year turns. By late 1845 the war has slowed, but it has not softened. Hōne Heke is still recovering from his wounds, his body weakened, his presence less visible. Leadership shifts subtly. Taruki Kawiti steps forward, older, patient, deliberate. Where Heke's defiance was symbolic, Kawiti's is architectural. Deep inland, Ruapakapeka begins to rise. The pair is different, low, layered, designed not for show but for survival. Trenches snake through the earth. Bomb shelters are dug deep enough to swallow men whole. Palisades are spaced to absorb cannon fire. Every angle anticipates violence. This power is not meant to stand forever. It is meant to endure long enough. British forces arrive in strength. Artillery is hauled through mud and bush, guns dragged inch by inch into position. When the bombardment begins on the 27th of December, the sound rolls endlessly through the forest. Cannonballs smash into timber. Earth erupts, smoke hangs heavy, smelling of sulphur and splintered wood. Inside the PA, Māori warriors wait. They crouch in trenches, listening to iron tear through the outer walls above their heads. Bombs explode harmlessly overhead, while men sit below ground, calm, patient, protected. Days stretch into weeks. The British fire again and again, convinced that nothing living could survive such punishment. But Ruapekapeka breathes. On January the 10th, 1846, breaches appear in the palisades. Confidence spreads through the British camp. Orders are prepared. The end feels close. Then, on Sunday morning, something feels wrong. The PA looks empty. Flags are gone. Movement is minimal. Smoke does not rise as expected. British sailors and soldiers advance cautiously, stepping over shattered defences and into the PA itself. For a moment there is silence. Then gunfire erupts behind them. Māori warriors surge from the bush, from trenches, from cover unseen. Shots crack at close range. Fighting spills behind the pier, hand to hand, desperate and chaotic. Hōne Heke is not leading from the front now, but his presence is felt. This is strategy shaped by experience. Refusal to die inside walls, refusal to fight on enemy terms. The power was never meant to be held. It was meant to draw the British forward, to stretch them, to bleed them. After hours of fighting, the Māori withdraw. Ruapekapeka is left behind, occupied by British forces who quickly declare victory. Flags are raised, reports are written. The rebellion, it is said, has been crushed, but nothing feels settled. Heke and Kawiti are still free. Their warriors remain intact. No surrender is signed, no land is taken. The forest swallows the rebels once more, leaving the British holding a shell. Soon after, the fighting stops. Heke and Kawiti meet with Tamati Wakanene. There is no ceremony, no spectacle, just agreement. The war is over. Pardons are granted. No punishments follow. The North exhales. In Auckland, the governor frames it as a clear British triumph. He does not understand what has actually happened. He does not see that authority has been challenged, reshaped, tested, and not broken. In the North, the story sounds different. Ruapekapeka is remembered not as a defeat, but as a lesson. In adaptation, in restraint, in knowing when to step away. And Hōne Heke, wounded but unbowed, moves quietly back into the land that made him, carrying a reputation now heavier than any flag. The North grows still again. The gunfire fades into memory. The bush closes over old tracks. Pa rot back into the earth. Life resumes its rhythms, though nothing is quite the same. Heke is changed. His body carries the cost of the fighting. Wounds that never fully heal. Strength that does not return the way it once did. He walks more slowly now. He speaks less, but his presence has weight. Among Ngāpuhi, his manner has not diminished. If anything, it has sharpened. He is spoken of as a patriot. Richard Davis writes that Heke has lifted himself to the very pinnacle of honour. Wherever he goes, people listen. He challenged the crown openly and survived. He forced negotiation where submission had been assumed. No land is confiscated, no punishment follows. That alone reshapes the balance of power. Heke does not return to war. Instead, he lives quietly, close to the land that raised him. The same hills, the same damp earth underfoot, the same wind moving through the trees. Christianity still sits within him, unresolved but sincere. He attends church. He listens to scripture. Faith, like resistance, remains part of him. Time, however, is less forgiving than armies. Tuberculosis settles into his lungs. Breath becomes difficult. Each cough pulls deeper than the last. By 1850, it is clear he is dying. The man who once moved easily through forest and fire now lies still, watched over by his wife Aotearoa and those who have stood beside him for years. On the 7th of August, Hōne Heke dies. There is no battlefield, no final speech, just the quiet release of breath in a place he knows well. The Reverend Richard Davis performs a Christian burial service, words spoken softly over a man who lived between worlds. Then tradition takes over. Heke's body is carried away by those closest to him, his longtime guards and followers. They move through familiar paths to a cave near Kororāreka, a hidden place called Muskets. There he is laid to rest beyond public view, returned to the land without ceremony or monument. For decades he remains there, spoken of but unseen. His legacy, however, does not stay buried. The PR designs developed during the war spread across the country. Trenches, bomb shelters, layered defences, innovations born from Ruapekapeka and Aotearoa reappear in later conflicts. Māori adapt. British tactics struggle to keep pace. The wars that follow are shaped by lessons learned in the north. Heke's name becomes fixed in history. A relief of his likeness appears on the Auckland High Court. A monument stands at Kaikohe. His bones are eventually moved, controversially, into public ground as development creeps closer to old sacred places. Even in death, questions of authority and ownership follow him. But among Ngāpuhi, the memory is simpler. Hōne Heke is remembered not for rebellion alone, but for clarity, for seeing the shift in power early, for refusing to let it pass without challenge. He did not reject the future. He argued with it. The flagstaff rises again at Kororāreka. It stands there still, but it no longer means what it once did. Because once, in the damp northern air, a man looked at a symbol and decided it did not speak for him. And with that decision, he changed the shape of a nation's story.